Hi, everybody. It is Jenna Faye here, and we are doing another, I can't speak today, guest expert training. And I have the amazing Jamie here with me today, and we're going to be talking about all things branding. So thanks for being here with me. I'm excited for us to dig in. Before we get into all of the nitty gritty, I'd love for you just to tell everybody a little bit more about who you are, what you're up to in the world. And thanks again for being here with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jenna. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you and everybody listening. My name is Jamie, and I'm a brand strategist and graphic designer exclusively for conscious and well-living businesses. So, like a lot of people, I got my start serving everybody, and I found that that didn't really serve me, and that didn't really serve the people I was working with. So, little by little, I narrowed in. And right now I am based in Hawaii. I'm kind of all over the place. I'm originally from California, went back and forth to Japan a few times, and landed in the middle. It's really one thing people say, it's great to live in Hawaii, it must be paradise, but it is hot all the time. So good or bad, that's how it is.
Awesome. Yeah, I have not been, but I've heard such good things about it. Now, in terms of what we're talking about today, I was thinking we could kick this off. If you could talk a little bit about what is branding? Because there's a lot of different ideas. And honestly, I find a lot of our clients are pretty confused about what branding actually is. So I'd love to hear how you would define it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great point. I think there is so much confusion. Branding essentially is an experience. It's an experience that you create for your people, for your followers, and your community. It's a combination of everything together. It's visuals, it's verbal, it's words, it's smell, it's touch, it's the feeling and the emotion that you get that you are putting out into the world for your audience to help them remember you, to help them talk about you, to know what to say. So it's an experience.
Okay, I love that. And why would you say it's important in this day and age, probably now more than ever?
Absolutely. Well, I think that something really hard, especially in the conscious business space and in the wellness space, is that is becoming so trendy. Wellness right now, just speaking to that sector, is a multi-trillion-dollar industry worldwide. So in order to rise above the noise, it's important to put yourself in a position to be remembered, to differentiate yourself from your competition and from just all the noise in general out there. So by constantly having your brand, by creating this experience in front of people, you create a personal connection, especially in creating, as I said, that emotional experience.
Okay, I love that. So what would you say is a brand voice or a brand identity?
I think the best way to describe it is it's like your personality. It's it's the words you use, it's the clothes that you like to wear, the kind of presence you have in a room. If you're you like to crack jokes, or if you like to be more academic. So whether it's a personal brand or not, thinking about your branding really like a personality helps you to visualize something that's so intangible as branding.
Okay, so where would you suggest somebody starts, if they're wanting to have a more cohesive, stronger, not as in more like masculine, but stronger as in more directly communicated, more effective brand that's expressing them, where do you typically suggest that people focus first?
Well, I think that there's a really big source of confusion that happens, especially with small and medium-sized businesses, is that everybody, when they start their business out, they make a huge checklist of everything that they have to do. And then usually on there you have logo, you have social media, and you have your website, right? Mm-hmm. But it's really, really important, especially for people starting out, to look at the bigger picture. So I like to use the analogy of a logo and a logo, website, email list, all of those things. They're like parts that you need to put in a car. So if you only have those parts, but you don't have the full car, you don't have the plan or the container to put it in, it doesn't serve you, it doesn't do anything, and it doesn't really have value. So that full car, that's your strategy, it's your plan. And what a brand looks like, how you create an experience, is to map out your brand touches. So what that means is think about the time from when somebody first finds out about you until when they purchase from you, they refer you to someone else, and then they purchase again.
Mm-hmm.
So thinking about all of those steps. So mapping that out is a really great place to start. And then those things like your logo, your website, your social media, those are all tools that fit into those touches, but they're just tools. And, starting out, it might not make sense to have a logo right away. It might make sense to just have a landing page that's gathering, collecting emails. You don't need to have everything at once, but if you have that overarching plan of all of those touches for how someone gets to know you and interacts with you, then that will really help you evaluate what makes sense for you or where you're at.
Okay, that makes sense. And then in regards to, the touches and building a relationship with your audience, like, do you have any other thoughts or tips on how branding can really play into that and the relationship building side of things?
Yeah, when you know what your touches are, that allows you to infuse your story into different segments. Because a lot of people, when they're starting out, they'll write this huge story, and it'll be just like, if you're writing, you're like going through notebook pages, and they're curling up on you, and it's just so long. But looking at those as snapshots, experiential snapshots, that you share visuals, you share something about yourself that's helping you connect with your audience. That's really how you get remembered. You have to think about, people are busy, and especially when you're fighting against algorithms, when you're fighting against busyness in people's lives, you're not only fighting against competitors, you're not competing with competitors, you're competing with everything that everyone has to do in their lives. So telling that story makes someone want to continue. It's like binging on Netflix, right? You want to know what's next. So when you infuse that story into your touches, visual, verbal, and other experiences, that helps someone want to know more rather than clicking away or just leaving your email in their inbox.
Yeah, that makes sense. We always talk about how the biggest currency is attention. So I feel like story totally interweaves into that. So in terms of aesthetics, you kind of talked about like the logo. And so I know sometimes people will think aesthetics, but what I mean by that is like colors and stuff, like brand colors, because that's another big one that I see where people are like, I need to find my brand colors. So what can you share with us in regards to like the importance? How does somebody find their brand colors? Like, what can you shed some light on around that?
Okay, so aesthetics. The reason why aesthetics get pushed so much in branding is because as humans, we communicate visually. Over 90% of our human communication is actually visual. And our brains, the human brain, processes imagery 60,000 or 600,000? I have to go back and look, 60,000 times faster than it does text. So just the speed at which imagery comes into our brains is incredible. It's really instinctual. So that's why this is pushed so much when we think about logos, brand colors and all of that. So something really, really important to think about always in branding, it's important to have something that you love, but ahead of you, it's important to have something that serves your people. Looking into what the trends are, what your competitors are doing, and most importantly, this is really the key for me, is what parallel brands are doing. Parallel brands are other places where your people spend their time, their energy, their money that are not competitors. So for example, if you're a health coach and you're working with a busy mom, these are nothing health related. It might be where they want to go on vacation, or where they like to buy clothes for themselves or their kids, or looking at those other experiences completely outside of your realm, looking at what's going on there, looking at the colors, looking at the aesthetic, looking at the experience, and drawing from that. So if you're looking to do this yourself and you're looking to stand out and rise above the trends, that's really the key. That's something that not a lot of freelancers will tell you. That's something that big agencies get into with strategy building.
I love that. That's a really good thought and tip around that. Now, what about the power of language, in terms of brand voice? And obviously we know aesthetic and visual is really important, but what about the power of language? Like, is there anything you can share with us around the words that people use, like whether that's keywords or things that really help to connect with their audience?
Yeah, absolutely. With branding being a combination of all kinds of communication, the words that you decide to use in your brand are incredibly important. So, I advise people usually make a list of words that you like to use in your daily life. You find that you're repeating these words. It might be something that, some kind of greeting, that a way that you like to call people, or if they're, important words in your industry, making a list of those, also knowing what kind of tone you like. Like if you're okay with using like kind of off-color words or like, stronger language, if that's a part of your brand, then include that. And that's okay. It's whatever fits with you. Or if you're working with an audience who's not comfortable with stronger language, then, direct that. But start making a list, and that list can change and grow. So yeah, just being aware of that will help you to build your brand language.
Perfect. Okay, now what are some of the top mistakes that you see in the branding industry, and that what people are doing when it comes to branding?
Oh my goodness. So I touched on this a little bit already, but where I see people waste time, energy, money, every currency that we have, is not having an overarching strategy, not having a plan, just saying, oh, I need a logo. Oh, I need a website. I'm rebranding. I need to revamp everything. But when you don't look at the reason for why you're doing these things, when you don't look at, okay, this is where I'm at, this is where I want to be, and this is how we connect the dots with the resources I have. It might be all at once, it might be phase by phase, but there's not usually an overarching plan and a strategy for how to accomplish what you're looking to do with branding. So I think that's really something that happens that doesn't serve people. One other thing is relying on trends and copying what other people are doing.
Yes.
Yeah. So when you rely on trends, when things become trendy, they're already on their way out, because thought leaders, so-called influencers, have already done this like 6 months ago, a year ago, and they're already onto something else. So it's like if you follow other people or you copy other people, it's like you're pedaling uphill, and it will never be your own. So looking at, like, oh, that color palette is great, I want to do that too, or I love that font, everybody has it. But when you do something like that, you're setting yourself up to be behind, to look like everyone else. And when you tell your audience, hey, I look like everybody else, that tells them that you can compare on price. So you're comparing apples to apples.
Yeah.
You look like everybody else, you must be like everybody else, right? So that's something that's really, really dangerous, especially if you want to get to that higher price point. I know, you guys talk so much about high ticket sales. So for branding, when you differentiate yourself, when you don't look like everybody else, that emphasizes that what you're offering is not like anybody else. So people should pay for it.
I think that's huge, because there's, especially, we work with men and women, but seeing especially in the female community, it's always like the hot pink with like that certain scripture font. Yeah. And I'm like, no, I don't want to see any more of it. I'm like, because it's all about creating like the disruption and creating active engagement instead of passive scrolling. So for people to find the unique blend of things, like you've hit on so many different key things. So like before we wrap this up, is there any other thoughts or tips or anything that you can think of, like stuff I didn't ask that you think is really important that we touch on branding wise?
I think, it's really easy to get caught up in the whole FOMO copying cycle. Everybody does it. You're like signing up for other people's email lists under a fake name and stalking people online. But just remember that what I said, that, if you're copying other people, it's not going to serve you. So be aware of what your competitors are doing. It's okay to watch them, to know exactly what they're doing, but then notice what they're not doing and leverage what they're not doing, because that's where you're going to be able to stand out. So that's a big one. And also remember to talk about, minimize the use of I and we. Talk more about you, talk about your people. It's not, it's not all about us as business owners, right? Like when you're writing for your website or for social media, remember to talk to your people, because it's about that.
I love that. Oh, those are all really, really good. Okay, so this has been awesome. And I know you have a free gift for everybody who's in our program, who's watching the Guest Expert training with you. So can you tell us, where can people stay connected to you? How do you work with your clients if anybody's looking for additional branding support, and about your free gift?
Sure. So yeah, the free gift. Let's talk about that first, because that's the most exciting. So everyone loves something free. So I have a brand touch worksheet or workbook that you can get on my website. So in that worksheet, it goes through every single possible brand touch that you can have, with room for expansion, so you customize it to you. And it has a series of steps and evaluations for you to understand what works for you, look at how much energy it takes, what kind of output you're getting from it, what kind of results. So that is a really, really valuable, strong, comprehensive self-evaluation. So
Amazing.
you can put that on my website. So my website is studioayuto.com. It's spelled studio, AIUTO.com. So you can get that there. There's up in the navigation bar, there's a button for that there for the free branding help. And then I like to hang out on Instagram a lot. And also, I just launched my YouTube channel. Just launched, as in it's not even linked on my website yet. Yeah. And then, yeah, so for when I work with clients, so I talked a lot today about, you don't just need a logo or website. So along with that, when someone comes to me for help with branding, that can look like mapping out strategy and doing some different consultation coaching work. It can also be if someone is looking for a website or a logo or a rebrand, that comes together with free strategy work, a lot of what I talked about today, and also the post strategy to make sure that you leverage your launch. Because I'm all about getting an ROI. Everything I do, it's in order to help you meet your business goals. So yeah, and different branding pieces that go along with that. But those are kind of the core things that I do.
Perfect. So good. So guys, make sure you go over to Jamie's website, get this workbook, check out how she works with her clients. And if you want to connect with her, I know you're definitely keen to connect with people and make sure they're set up for success, just like we are. It's getting people what they need in order to get to where they want to go. So definitely tap into Jamie as a resource. Make sure that you are following and connected with her on Instagram. And yeah, thank you, Jamie, for coming on and sharing this. This has been a really good branding overview to help people, step into, as we're working on high ticket, bring together the branding and just go through some of the things that I know get really jumbled up in people's heads of like what's important and what's not. So I do appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Jenna. I appreciate it too.
Yeah, thank you.